You're listening to the StudioPTBO podcast, where we talk all things marketing to help you build and grow your business online. Welcome to the latest episode. Welcome to the StudioPTBO podcast. We are back, and we're back at it again with another guest. Neil, before we intro the guest, Neil, my man, how you doing? Life's good over there in your office?
Yeah, it's awesome, Cody May, other than having a neighbor like you right next to me.
Yeah, fair enough.
No, you're awesome too, brother. Yeah, it's been a good day so far. Lots of Zoom meetings, and it's just constant as it is with our guest today, who is joining us all the way from California. And he's known on Instagram and beyond as Joe Coach. But I'll let him intro his name and a little bit of his backstory, which is really interesting. So, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Glad to be here. I heard you guys were a lot of fun.
We like to have fun. We enjoy interviewing. We enjoy talking to entrepreneurs, and the fact that we're going to talk sales today is super exciting for me.
Love it. If you guys weren't fun and silly, I would probably pretend that we had another power outage and I would just bounce.
Just peace out. Well, that's good. But if the power the power goes out now I know.
Yeah, you Google it. It's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing. You're like, it's fine.
There's nothing at all. Yeah.
Anyway.
So Joe, I'll let you pronounce your last name because as I said in the green room before the show, I'm just going to destroy it. But how do you pronounce your?
Even though my friends have a blast with this, they love making reservations under my name for some reason everywhere.
Yeah, sure.
It's pronounced Semaan, not Semaan.
Yeah. Okay.
You can imagine what my childhood was like.
Yeah,
I can only imagine.
You're like, I haven't heard that one before, right? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Joe, let's start at the beginning with you, and not right at the beginning when you came out of the womb, but that spur of the moment decision you had in 2002 to leave Chicago and drive to California. Where did that come from, and was that sort of a life-changing moment for you? And sort of walk us through what happened after that.
It was definitely life-changing, man. I think, these days we tend to make a bigger deal out of these stories than they really are, because now that we have the blessing of being able to connect with so many people over the planet, we know that a lot of these stories go the same. Mm-hmm. But it was basically, I got laid off from the tech sector after 9/11. I was a young chap, and I had to work 3 jobs in order to just float my bills, the bills that I had accumulated, when you're making money and you're young. And I got a phone call from a buddy one day who was I graduated college with, and he was out in California with his parents. And he wasn't trying to convince me to come over. He was just saying how glamorous it was. He was just like, yo, it's beautiful out here. It's warm. This is in February, by the way. So you guys know what February is like in the Midwest.
Don't you worry. We do. And we're waiting for it.
Not as bad as yours, but anyhow, so, he was like, it's nice out here. He's like, everybody makes money out here. Everybody has nice cars out here. The girls are beautiful out here. He gave me the whole 1-2, 1-2, and here I am sitting there in 0-degree weather with like a couple $100 in my bank account, working 3 jobs. And I just hung up the phone. I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next morning. And I had just logged into my bank account, because I was very paranoid and concerned that I was just on the verge of going broke. I had already had to repo my car and the month before. And I barely had enough money for the upcoming rent and some groceries. Mm-hmm. And it just hit me right there. I looked outside, and you guys know what it's like. I parked in a carport, so I still had to go out and scrape the ice off the car, start the car, come back inside. Place is a mess. And I was like, if I'm going to be broke, why don't I go be broke in some 80-degree weather? And that was pretty much the level of intelligence I had at that point. And I packed up as much as I could. I gave my roommate some cash to cover rent. I called my mom and my best friend, and I hit the road.
And you actually ended up getting jobs there in California, but you were living out of your car for the first few months. Is that true?
Yeah, I slept in, I made the mistake of calling myself homeless. I wasn't homeless. I had a home. I had a great family. I could have gone back to in Peoria, Illinois at any time. But I slept in my car. I slept in the hand-me-down car that my brother gave me that he was, on the verge of getting rid of. And I did get a job. I orchestrated an interview at a health club, during my 2-day driving. And because I had sales experience, you know, and some fitness experience as well, I got that job pretty much overnight.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So much of like what we talk about to our audience is around mindset, marketing, business secrets, you know, like the journey of adversity and the journey of, you know, getting you to where you are today. Like, tell us a little bit about that. Like, you know, it's like you've worked with so many companies like, you know, Wells Fargo, Bank of America. Like, how, like, was there a shift in time where like you thought one thing, you found new information? Like, maybe tell us about like the shift in mindset and like maybe 3 big things that you've learned over the last years of headed to where you are now. Like, how did you get to where you are today?
You know, I have a lot of strengths that were passed on to me. Like, I come from a very, very caring people type family, you know. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't help the curiosity of, you know, once I, you know, made it to California and met some people, ended up getting into the mortgage business. And if you guys remember, during that time, it was the first really big boom, you know, that we had seen in a long time. I mean, a massive one. And, you know, and we were making excellent money. You know, I was in my, you know, early to mid 20s, you know, making anywhere from, you know, $20,000 to $50,000 a month. Mm-hmm. That was a lot. That was a lot from, you know, coming out of living in your car. It's a little bit of a difference.
Yeah, just a tag.
You know? Right. But I became really, really fascinated as I escalated into management as to how many people we would recruit and how few would do exceptionally well.
Yeah.
I just got curious. I'm like, what is going on? Like, these people are such cool people. They get so excited. They're looking for that hope. Maybe this is the one. Maybe this is the job. Maybe this is, hopefully they have that glimmer of hope. Maybe this is the opportunity that's finally going to allow me to set money aside, or finally get an investment property, or finally provide for my family, or finally get married, or finally pay off my mom's. You know, there's this window of hope when you start a new job, especially a sales position, because we don't like limits. And I was grateful, you know, for what I was experiencing, what I was learning, but I was just super, super fascinated. Why do the overwhelming majority never really reach their full potential or anywhere near it? Why is it that I've got a handful of people that are just killing it, you know, and racking up the chips, and everybody else, almost by design, is being forced to, you know, still live in this world and mindset and budget of mediocrity?
Yeah.
And then I noticed, you know, hey, that's also happened in my life up and down several times. It seems like I tend to do well when everything around me is going well. And, you know, I started I decided to leave after my biggest month ever. People think I left because of the recession of 2008. That's not true. I actually left and started coaching in 06, in January of 06, a year and a half before the recession, because I noticed that fascination, and I had some money in the bank, and I had my own freedom. You know, it was just me. And then I went out to pursue that. It wasn't until the recession that I realized, oh, wow, not only is that, you know, that was the first thing I noticed, was why do most people get stuck in mediocrity when they're pursuing a life in sales or entrepreneurship or business or whatever type of performance? Because they don't want to have the average lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because they exactly don't leave their family, you know, broke. Yeah. Or whatever the case may be. And then I noticed when economic adjustments happen, people take a massive hit. Mm-hmm. And it's not that money stops changing hands. The money doesn't disappear. The big realization I had was that you don't have the skill set to be versatile during a recession.
So why do you think mediocrity is such a, like, you know, you've chatted before about the 80-20 rule, you know, generally, you know, 20% of the people in your organization, or however you word it, do majority of the sales. So like, why is that? And how can you help somebody who is living a mediocre life, or, you know, just comfortable? How do you encourage those people to actually look at things differently, to see that opportunities are endless? Because, like, you know, again, like I spent 10 years in the telecom industry working at Best Buy, managing teams. And I always felt that there was something else out there. I felt that there was something bigger. I felt I could accomplish more. I just didn't know how to get there. And it wasn't until I was actually introduced to entrepreneurship that I was actually able to see, okay, opportunities are actually endless. So is it an information thing? Is it Like what do you think it is that's holding people back from actually reaching their full potential?
It's an information thing in the way of culture. We tend to love to hand down rules from one generation to another. And we're in a completely different world right now. Now, we're not necessarily in a different world when it comes to the fundamental behaviors of human beings. That takes thousands of years to change, right?
Yeah.
But we're in a different system where these rules, although they may have had good intention for scaling businesses, that's why in my sales curriculum, I have something called the new rules, or one of the tags is the rules have changed. And I started asking questions like the psychology of why these things were created. They definitely were not created to inspire people. Right? They weren't created to inspire people, because if that was the case, then what you would end up doing instead is you would always have notice in a lot of companies, the people who tend to win rewards are repetitive.
Yeah.
Okay. And what that does is it creates a division. I call it the domination divide. Not only does it happen in our economy, it's happening right now on a massive scale, but it happens within a company or a team. And when you create a rewarding system like that, and you have rules like that as a leader, it's the 80-20 rule. It's when it's always going to be, that's just the way it is. What you immediately do is you discount the potential of all the people that you've agreed to take on, to mentor, to care for, and to help grow.
Yeah.
And so it's okay to measure the metrics, but when I'm in a company and I see that all the ramifications and the results of those types of belief systems are there, one of my main goals is to try to break those rules to the point where I get 35%, 38% of the company doing exceptionally well, or at least breaking records that they individually had before. Mm-hmm. My goal is to do that within 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. If I can do that, like I tell people in the beginning, I go, if you guys don't mind, I am going to have to force you to another level of performance. I'm going to have to force you. I don't trust you to do it, or I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
So I take them out of the parking lot and beat the shit out of them for a little.
That's awesome, Joe. I don't doubt it. But I'm sure that you've worked with so many organizations, and they all come to you and probably say, hey, Joe, like, you haven't seen anything like what we're doing here, what we're doing wrong, and where we're going right. And you probably say to them, yeah, I have. Like I've watched a podcast you did with another host, and you sort of said that there are patterns that emerge and reveal themselves about companies, because at the end of the day, we're all alike. You referenced their DNA 99.1% alike. So what are the patterns that you have noticed emerge over the years of your coaching and sales with companies?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of them. So first off, it's when I meet a new company or when I'm working with new business leaders, not only do I really, really enjoy it, but I do have to be aware, I do have to be sometimes sensitive to their romanticism, meaning, our company is different, our brand is different, they have this different, we're different mentality. We do things differently here, we market differently here, and I just sort of go, And you should feel that your company is special.
Sure.
But, once I've earned the respect and I've spent some time and I've gotten to know, what the unique characteristics are, although when you've been to, hundreds and hundreds of companies, there's always common patterns. Mm-hmm. Like anything else, like an athlete playing, thousands of games, there are patterns. And the first thing I notice is their reward systems. Second thing I notice is how they measure their performance. Most sales organizations measure their performance after the sale, at the point of sale, or they're very generically measure how much marketing they spent and how much money they brought in, cost per acquisition. And they don't really measure much in between, which means they're probably not very good at catching the micro behaviors that lead to or don't lead to a sale. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yep, totally.
So that's one thing. You got to catch the micro behaviors. You have to create reward systems that glorify people for improving the behaviors and the habits that lead to the sale, not the sale itself. That's how you create a divide in your company, and so forth. Not only that, but it's tough to figure out what to help somebody with. You get sales managers that walk around and they go, how'd that call go? Or how was your week? Or what do you think you did different? Why are you asking the salesperson?
Yeah.
They're going to give you whatever makes them feel better.
Yeah.
Until the point where it's the point of no return. And now their identity shift is so low that it's going to be much more difficult to pick them back up to what they're capable of again. Mm-hmm. So they don't really measure things, correctly. The other thing that I see is they don't train enough. They don't train enough, and I compare sales professionals or business people in general, whether you're running a business from your home, your e-com, your insurance, your mortgage, your real estate, your retail, whatever it is. I go, how often do athletes practice? All the athletes that we respect, all of them that they admire, how often do they practice? Way more than we do. So that's another thing is I think that most companies have training when they need to, or they have product training. They don't have, and that's one of the things that allowed me to work with a couple of the branches here in B of A, was they didn't want me to coach because they said we spend, just here locally, Joe, we spend $1.2 million a year on training. And I said, call a meeting with the top producers. And for my next meeting, I'll come down. This was in San Diego several years ago. And I'll come down and meet with your top producers. I have a few questions for them. And it took me about 45 minutes to get them to admit the actual interaction between them and the customer that was leading to them losing sales. Because I looked at the reports and they each talked to roughly, let's say, 60 qualified people of their own clientele a month. Wow. And at that time, top producers were closing about 5 to 6 transactions a month. Right. So I said, well, everything that you guys do, you measure what you close and then you get rewarded for a top producer. I call it the top producer mind fuck, if you don't mind me saying that. No. And I would be rewarding people for doing a little bit above average. And then everybody thinks that that's how you get rewarded. So now you're limiting the performance of everyone. Yeah. I go, how about you say, good job. You have practiced and perfected a method that loses 85% of your business. Yeah. Now let's close the gap because you're obviously talented. Let's just close the gap. And so when I asked them those questions, I said, for these topics that we've now discovered or revealed, what training do you have for these? They're like, And I remember the manager, there was a woman, she was hilarious, Filipino woman. She was super sweet too. And she just goes, just send me the fucking invoice. She was over it by that time. She's like, just send me the invoice.
Just said, let's make this. So like, I'm hearing a lot of talk about obviously, micro behaviors and like really behavior management. So I'm really curious because, I talk to so many entrepreneurs, like obviously we're a marketing company and one of the things I often say that no amount of marketing can fix a broken sales process. And we've chatted about this in the past, especially as a marketing company. So, with the behavior management and all of that, like entrepreneurs, I find like when we chat with them, especially even the ones that are really growing, they've really built their business on referrals, and real estate agents are massive about this. Like they're like, we build our business on referrals. We don't really have a sales process. Like, what would you say to an entrepreneur that doesn't have a sales process or a system, or they have a team and they don't really have a system or a process? What are some of the first steps that they could take in order to actually physically map out the sales process, but then B, work with their sales team or their sales staff to actually help them with behavior management?
Yeah, I got you. I'm working with some companies right now that are going through that. They've been successful at a certain size. Now they have to scale. And, I would ask yourself, would you expect any professional high performance team to not have a playbook? Mm-hmm. That would seem kind of silly, wouldn't it? And if that was the case, then how do you develop a playbook? Well, I would go find people who are really good at making playbooks, to speed up the process. And that's, potentially what you do is first you start out with, okay, what skills need to be taught and how do we script those out? Not that we want people scripted, but we need something to practice in repetition or we cannot get better at anything. Yeah. We have to do something consistently, something that we can measure and improve and tweak and fine tune, just like any good design, just like any good athlete, just like anybody, right? Leader, and so forth. So when I go into a company, when they have that challenge, the first thing that I do is I learn their sales process and then we start to document it. So when I say behaviors, what I'm actually referring to is the action of a particular skill. Okay. Not your cultural behavior or your discipline and whatnot. There's other systems for accountability that I roll out, much more modern, much more fun, in today's age, that help to deal with behavioral changes from a sense of discipline, work ethic, and mindset. But when I'm talking about these habits of the sales process, I'm talking about particular skills that need to be injected into certain parts of the communication process, whether it's asking for a referral, whether it's leaving a voicemail, whether it's talking to a customer for the first time. You know, part of my program, I teach people how to become the one, which is communicate in a fashion where from the very first breath of the phone call, as you know, the customer starts to analyze not whether or not you have the best product. When you're doing consultative selling, what they're really asking, they're really curious about is whether or not you're the right person to help them make a decision. Whether or not you're the right person to help to partner with them in this decision-making process. Because everybody's going to say, what about their product?
Yeah.
See, and in modern consumer behavior, a customer immediately becomes resistant when the focus becomes the product or the strengths of the company or the service. We've done this, we've worked with this, and what we can do, we doubled sales, and we all over yourself.
Yeah. You said, you know, don't make the customer feel sold. They want to be understood. So walk us through what that looks like to you and the psychology behind that.
Sure. You make a promise to your customer in some way. Some people call it setting the intention. For high level selling, you know, it's fairly the same across every board. Big takeaway for you guys in the audience. And, you know, hopefully they've heard this before too, from other good leaders, is you make a promise to your customer that whether, you know, your priority is to help them make the right decision for what's ultimately best for them, whether it includes you or not. Your company, your product is not the priority. Your priority is to understand the customer, to, you know, on a level that most people in your industry don't understand them. You have to understand your customer better, which usually means not just building rapport, but usually means incorporating at least 7 to 10 additional questions that your industry doesn't already ask.
Yeah.
That's how you break patterns. Oh, this person is different. You know, I feel better with them. There's a study that shows how they've gotten people to fall in love within 1 hour by getting them to ask 35 intimate questions to each other back to back.
Like speed dating.
Called a love study or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, these people want to make out with each other. I wouldn't with you, obviously.
Don't ask me those questions.
Oh, man. Thank God you guys are like 50,000 miles away.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm so curious. Like, what are some of those questions like that you would train salespeople to ask that are different than any other? Like, you know, give us the goods. Like, what are some of those questions that people that are listening to this podcast can ask to set themselves apart so that the actual end consumer that they're talking to can they can build that deeper sense of connection.
So, you know, in a lot of industries that I mentor are high-level financial consulting type businesses. Even when I work with marketing companies like yours, I like to tell them, remember to focus on life and time, life and time, life and time. So I'm centering my questions around how much time has passed by, not related to the product, not related to the decision, not related to the future. And what I find is that most people they become very, very intimate with the professional they're working with when we ask about the past and the present. When we talk about the future, we tend to get into selling. Now we still bring up the future because we need to know what their vision is, what their goals are, you know, what they're hoping to create or where they want to see themselves. But I find we get the deepest intimate connection with customers when we ask questions about time and life questions. Let's say you're working on marketing and they bring up the fact that they want to talk to their wife. And I'll say, oh my, we know, what's her name? And he says, Michelle. And I say, oh, how long have you two been together? And he says, we've been together for 18 years. And I'm like, oh my gosh, kids. And they say, yeah. Now, you might think this is rapport. But in a sense, if it's strategically being done, and I'm including 7 to 10 of those things, which I may use in my close. I may use them in addition to benefit in metrics and money and profit and so forth. You know, I may say, look, man, you know, you've been married for 18 years. You know, time flies by and none of it was easy. It's not a big deal if we spend 6 months working on this together.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So
it's not just small talk.
It's not just small talk, you know, and depending on the context of the conversation, obviously some things are not appropriate, some things are.
Yeah, totally.
But really, and the magic numbers, I usually go into a minimum of 7 to 10 additional, what I call meaningful or measurable questions that I can somehow relate to my close or create an unarguable decision, state of clarity and building that momentum where not only I become the more trusted partner, but I also have an overwhelming, number of unarguable facts that came from the customer themselves and they cannot refute.
Yeah, that's good.
Joe, curious. So Bradley, I know, Bradley, we had him on our podcast and he was awesome, but he's like, I said, Brad, you could sell to anyone, right? And he's like, of course I could. Like I'm a master seller. I know how to do it. I know how to do it properly, ethically. But I asked him, how important is it to have a passion for the product that you are selling to the consumer in your estimation? Does it matter? Because for instance, in a pandemic, some people are getting jobs where they don't really care about the product, but they could sell it. They could sell it really well. Where do you land on that topic?
I think it depends. That's not a finite rule for me.
Okay.
I wasn't super passionate about mortgages, but I understood that there's a benefit to them. And I think the bigger question for me is, am I doing something harmful by selling this?
Okay.
Not, am I super passionate about it? If I'm harming or misleading, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Can't do it. But if I know technically that there's a need for it and some customer, even if I don't need it, I'm not the type of sales agent who makes up a story that I've been using this product myself for 10 years.
Yeah.
I've been through the process myself. Keep it real. I don't need to lean on those stories, those fake stories, because I understand now through study and through practice how to really, 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 become the one that my customer wants to do business with, and make decisions with whatever it is. But do you have to be super passionate? I think it's a plus.
Okay.
I think it's a plus. If I'm knowing Brad, he would say, no, you don't have to be passionate about it.
Yeah.
So So what do you think goes into making a good salesperson? Like, are there, like, obviously we chatted about behaviors and we chatted about, like awareness of romanticism, and like we chatted about a lot today, but like, are there things that are taught? Are there things that you think are just like, you just have natural talent that makes you better at closing? Like what are the key ingredients that you think go into making a really good salesperson? And what, like, if I'm an entrepreneur and I'm looking to hire somebody, obviously there's DISC assessments and there's, sales DNA tests, and there's so many different things, but if I'm looking to hire somebody, what should I be looking for?
Pronounce their name correctly.
Right. I'm glad we're finishing on that. This is a big one. I've seen so many people in so many companies. I've helped so many people go from nobodies to top producers. And what I realize is all these tests and whatnot may be helpful for high-level positions. But when it comes to sales, I think two things. I need to know that the person is curious enough to want more in their life. And I need to know why. The other thing, I need to know that this person naturally cares about people somehow. I can teach them the skills. If they cannot, on the phone call, separate themselves from making money and caring for someone, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to develop.
Can you tell instinctually? Sorry to interrupt. Can you tell instinctually now, or
No.
does it take you long to form? No. Okay.
No, I would say, the questioning process of a sales agent, can be modified a bit. The problem with that is, I was just having this conversation with a local business at a meeting yesterday, and I was talking about how many people have become professional interviewers, but aren't very good on the job. And regardless of of what talent level they are, skill level of them, if they have the right intentions, you can see a person's intentions pretty clearly after 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
You can kind of see. Are they taking it upon themselves to track things? Are they taking it upon themselves to show up early? Are they taking it upon themselves to practice things? Do you already hear them an hour after your meeting practicing things that you taught them? Is it twisting their arm to try to get to use the training? Are they bringing their lunch in so that they don't have to take a long lunch break? Is it, you know what I mean? Are they on it?
Yeah. There's telltale signs. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And are they reviewing their game tapes, like you said earlier? And
sure.
I saw you said on one of the podcasts the value, and I really took this to heart because we do this now all the time with our sales team, and internally we record our meetings and we play them back. It's like, that's the only way you're going to learn, right? That's a huge part of the process.
Yeah, if a company doesn't have a recording system within my first 4 weeks, I don't continue.
And that makes sense.
Not only that, but when nobody's even using it, you're killing the accountability and your visual accountability.
100%.
100%.
Right, Cody? It's been a game changer for us recording.
100%. It can find you talk about those micro things. It can find those micro things that if you were just tweak just a little bit and just change something, just that smallest little thing, it can, you can watch the entire process from front to back.
I would encourage you to also do it spontaneously. Okay. On a weekly basis, to just randomly pull them and then email it out to the team. We randomly pulled some stuff. Here's what we found. And what that does is it accelerates a person's adaptation and learning, because they don't want to be randomly pulled a phone call that they're not, or a meeting that they're not performing on.
Yeah.
You never know which one you're going to pull. Same thing with reward systems, randomly rewarding people. It's great that you have bonuses and games and competitions. All companies do that. I encourage it. But I also say, the best way to reward people is to catch them in the act. You guys probably read that or seen that before.
100%. We interviewed last year the former owner of the Toronto Raptors, and Richard Petty was his name. He ran the Toronto Maple Leafs and Raptors for years, and he said, reward meritocracy, right? That let the cream rise to the top, the talented, reward them. Not everyone necessarily deserves a raise, right? Just because the company's doing well. So I 100% agree with what you're saying. I want to talk, we have to finish up soon, about mindful of your time, Instagram. So you are getting, Joe, I assume, tons of organic referrals right now. So you're not having to do as much prospecting yourself. I could be wrong. I'm just speculating here. But what's your strategy with your Instagram channel? It doesn't feel very salesy to me. It feels pretty chill, relaxed, authentic. What's your strategy behind that?
Yeah, I've actually procrastinated on being aggressive with that for quite a while. And I think it was because the majority of my business now, even nationwide, has become word of mouth, not Instagram related. It's literally become word of mouth. There's enough, salespeople like to bounce around. Mm-hmm. And over the course of 15 years and just under 400 companies, they'll literally walk up to somebody and say, where did you learn that? Like, how did you know to write that? Where did you hear that question? And that question pops up as these troops go out and they start killing it in other places. So, my marketing team hates it because I have not asked for business or marketed my business in 7 years. The challenge with that is now, of course, I have to go from, these 1-2 corporate relationships to 1-to-many. Yeah. So now it's become more important for me to share, a lot of this stuff through what we're doing here with you guys, having me on and many others, and through social media and whatnot. That's just the way to do it. My strategy is more so is sharing knowledge and also making sure, for a while I slipped out of my natural character, which is vulgar but caring. And I started to sound like other people. Mm-hmm. And I would watch these videos and I'm like, I'm not putting that up there. Yeah. What am I, some type of influencer? Fucking pansy. Yeah. So I'm like, dude, just use the same attitude. And even my clients were like, what is that video? Who is that?
Who is that?
They're like,
if your clients are saying that. Yeah.
You come here, you're crazy, you yell at us, you scream at us, you pounce, and then you give everybody a hug, and then you leave, and it's freaking weird. And then online you're just appropriate for like, who is that guy? Yeah. Yeah. So staying in my natural character, I think is
love it.
Way more important. Yeah.
And they can follow you on Instagram at Joe Coach.
That's Joe Coach. Yeah, that seems to be what everybody loves. I mean, then your family and your friends start calling you that. It's kind of weird.
Joe Coach.
Yeah, and it's easy. That's easy to pronounce that last name.
Yeah, I will be, finally giving access to a new top producer academy. All my stuff with my corporate clients are like $7,000 a month and up.
Yeah.
And it makes it very difficult for individuals to get access to this stuff. So I'm going to roll something out here in about 6 to 8 weeks or so that'll make it really accessible for pretty much everybody in the country. And, I'll let you guys know when that happens.
Let us know. We'll push that out. Joe, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. So much amazing insight. And thank you for listening to the StudioPTBO podcast. We really do appreciate it. We're really on a mission to help passionate and energetic entrepreneurs with marketing and mindset knowledge, help them build, grow, and scale their business online. Joe, thank you so much. Thanks, Neil, again. And thank you for listening to the Studio PTBO podcast. We will see you soon.